This is a Murakami Minute, presented by the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. It's Murakami time!
Murakami.
You excited?
Yeah.
This might be a Murakami hour, because we decided we're just going to finish the book. There's 4 stories, they're longer, but we're just going to knock it all out in one go. So this might be a little longer than the Murakami minutes that have already bloated up to 30 minutes each from the original 15 minutes we were hoping for. The first story in the Elephant Vanishes finale, The Dancing Dwarf. I really like this story.
This was the one I was telling you about last week.
This was the most Murakami. And when I keep telling you about the Murakami weirdness, this is the prime example. It's just so bizarre. So it starts
without explaining any of it.
No, that's why Murakami's great. He doesn't explain the weirdness. So it starts off with a guy having a dream where he meets a dancing dwarf. And boy, can this dwarf dance. He's in the woods, and the dwarf pretty much tells him, he's like, I'm like, when he's about to wake up or whatever, he's like, I'm never going to meet you again. The dwarf's like, oh yeah, and you're going to live in this forest forever. And he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, dwarf. And then I'm like, okay, so that was like the weird part of the story, right?
Yeah.
It just goes into this guy. He's just talking about his day job now. Like, he wakes up and he goes to his day job where he works at an elephant making factory.
Yeah.
It's like, what? He works in this huge factory where they reconstitute elephants out of various parts of other elephants or something to make more elephants, because elephants don't breed fast enough for this world where they like elephants a lot. So,
Well, there was some kind of like revolution.
well, we'll get to that. But so they have to breed these elephants.
Well, no, they make the elephants.
I mean, they have to make these elephants because they don't breed fast enough. And like you have to switch out. So one week you're making ears, the other one you're doing the legs. So it's this big process. It's very fucking weird. But it's played off completely normal. Like, this is just, like, again, how Murakami does. That's what this guy does. He makes elephants. Perfectly normal.
Well, also it feels like this factory is like its own like town, kind of.
Yeah.
There's not like there's the forest around it, but it doesn't seem
I
like
almost got like a Santa's elves kind of vibe, where it's just like that's where they live. Is like that's all they do in this area is make elephants.
Yeah.
Very cool descriptions of how they make the elephants too. But I'm not going to go into that because we don't have time. So a brief rundown is this guy finds out there's a hot chick.
A new chick.
A new chick. She's hot and he wants to make it with her. But he don't believe his buddies because, guys, they lie. They say the chick's super hot, but they're not always that hot. Well, he finds this lady. He goes, he kind of slimes his way into the leg making department that he's not scheduled in. And he like tricks the security to get in there. And he sees her and she's hot and she's very dismissive, does not want anything to do with him. I forget if this came before or after, but he meets because he tells his buddy about the dwarf dream, because it's a very weird dream. And he ends up going to the tavern they have on the premises, and there's like this old guy there who's worked there before this revolution that supposedly happened. So he worked there forever, and he like points to a picture on the wall of like a little kid. He's like, "That's me," and it was like fucking 100 years ago.
Yeah, because the friend that he talked to about the dwarf.
Yeah, told him ask that guy because he's really old.
Yeah, he's the only person that would probably have known about the dwarf.
So he goes and talks to this guy, buys him a couple rounds, and then the guy goes on and tells him all about this dwarf. And this dwarf was like this great dancer, and everyone was captivated, and the bar ended up paying this dwarf to dance. And then he became so famous that the king wanted the dwarf. They brought the dwarf in front of the king, and he danced, and he blew everyone away. He fucking blew the roof off of that castle. And then they were entranced by this stupid dwarf and his dancing. And then something bad happened. There was a revolution, and they kind of blamed the dwarf for the revolution. I don't think it really goes into why they like overthrew the kingdom, like the whatever people. I don't know if it was the elephant factory or whatever. So they have this big revolution, and the dwarf disappears, and that's it. And you're not allowed to talk about the dwarf. It's like 80 years later. They're still looking for this guy.
Yeah, you can't even say the word dwarf, I think.
Yeah.
You can't say the D word.
No. We get to the point where, fast forward a little bit. This guy, because when he was talking to the girl in the factory, he asked her if she wanted to go out dancing. She said no. And but she did say she was going to go dancing by herself, and if he just happened to be there, okay. So this guy wants to go and, he wants to do her pretty much is what he says. Well, he has another dream, talks to the dwarf again, tells the dwarf about his problem. The dwarf seemed really nice at first.
Don't they always?
They always do. They always do. So he talks to the dwarf, and the dwarf is like, hey, I have a proposition for you. I know how you can make this lady fall in love with you, and you can smash. Here's what you do. I go in your body. Already creepy.
Well, even before that, he tried to, he does a good job of, like you said, being nice at first, because he's like, I could train you how to dance. And he's like, oh, that'd be awesome. How long would it take? Oh, about like 6 months or so. And he's like, oh, no, that'd be too long. Some other guy will swoop in and take her. And he's like, well, there's this other option.
Yeah, so he pretty much says, hey, I can go in the body and I'll just dance for you with your body. And then, but the guy's smart. He's like, no, stupid dwarf. I know what you're going to do. You're going to keep my body. And he's like, well, I can't unless you agree to it. So there's no way that would happen. So I have a proposition for you. You can do this. You could do this stupid, this scheme they came up with where you dance and she's going to fall in love with you because the dwarf's such a good dancer. But if you say one word, make any sound.
For the whole night.
Until he has sex with the girl. He has to have sex with the girl and then this whole deal, like the dwarf will leave his body. But if he makes a sound before that, he loses and the dwarf keeps his body forever. So he's like, well, I don't want that. That sounds awful. He's like, come on, that seems pretty easy. Like, you could do that. And the guy thinks about it. He's like, yeah, I could do that. I can just not make a noise. So he does. He makes the deal. Dwarf goes into his body. And again, the dwarf still seems pretty friendly at this point. Like, it doesn't seem like it's going to be like a evil thing that happens. So the guy goes to the tavern, does his dancing, doesn't say a word. Girl falls in love with him right on the spot because of his amazing dancing. Takes her to the woods, as they do in this village, and he lays her out in the field in the grass. And he's going to make sweet love to her. And she is the most beautiful girl he's ever seen. And then the most nightmarish fucking scene. I'm going to read this whole scene. This is the most nightmarish scene I think I've ever read in a Murakami book. Like, it was like, good Lord. It just gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it was pretty creepy there for, that little section. It kind of threw me off at first,
You're just like, what the? Because you just think it's going to be like a sex scene. And it's not sexy.
Yeah, especially considering like the past stuff we've read with him and his sex scenes and stuff like that. This was nothing like that.
Okay, so I'm going to read this is going to be a little bit of a reading here, but this whole scene needs to be read out loud. It's amazing. So he's in the field with her, and he's about to make sweet whoopee with this lady. And remember, though, he can't make a noise, so he's going to have a silent orgasm. He needs to put it in, wiggle it around, and then he'll be free of the stupid dwarf. We left the dance hall and walked along the river. I had no car, so we just kept walking and walking. Soon the road began its gradual climb into the hills. The air became filled with the perfume of white night blooming flowers. I turned to see the dark shapes of the factory spread out below. From the dance hall, yellow light spilled out onto its immediate surroundings like so much pollen, and one of the orchestras was playing a jump tune. The wind was soft, and the moonlight seemed to drench her hair. It's already a beautiful scene, unfortunately. Ooh, they'll get romantic.
Yeah.
Neither of us spoke. After such dancing, there was no need to say anything. She clung to my arm like a blind person being led along the road. And this is a J. Rubin translation, by the way. The other stories I didn't care so much for were, again, Alfred Birnbaum. I don't like Alfie's work.
I think Rubin did the last story.
He did the last story, yes. Topping the hill, the road led into an open field surrounded by pine woods. The broad expanse looked like a calm lake. Evenly covered in waist-high grass, the field seemed to dance in the night wind. Here and there, a shining flower poked its head into the moonlight, calling out to insects. Here's where they're about to get romantic. Putting my arm around her shoulders, I led her to the middle of the grassy field, where, without a word, I lowered her to the ground. You're not much of a talker, she said with a smile. She tossed her shoes away and wrapped her arms around my neck. I kissed her on the lips and drew back from her, looking at her face once again. She was beautiful as a dream. I still could not believe I had her in my arms like this. She closed her eyes, waiting for me to kiss her again. And you read that and you're like, oh man, they're going to get it now. He's going to touch your boobies. And then, oh my God. Oh my God. I just immediately it's just so abrupt. I was just like, what the fuck? And it's like, I don't think any other story in this collection had anything close to this scene either.
Yeah, I wouldn't say this is probably the closest to horror.
Yeah, it's just straight horror
that I've read out of his stuff.
So I had her in my arms like this. She closed her eyes, waiting for me to kiss her again. That was when her face began to change. A fleshy white thing crept out of one nostril. It was a maggot, an enormous maggot, larger than any I had ever seen before. Then came another and another, emerging from both her nostrils, and suddenly the stench of death was all around us. Maggots were falling from her mouth to her throat, crawling across her eyes and burrowing into her hair. The skin of her nose slipped away, the flesh beneath melting until only 2 dark holes were left. From these, still more maggots struggled to emerge, their pale white bodies smeared with the rotting flesh that surrounded them. Pus began to pour from her eyes, the sheer force of it causing her eyeballs to twitch, then fall and dangle to either side of her face. In the gaping cavern behind the sockets, a clot of maggots like a ball of white string swarmed in her rotting brain. Oh, gross. Her tongue dangled from her mouth like a huge slug, then festered and fell away. Her gums dissolved, the white teeth dropping out one by one, and soon the mouth itself was gone. Blood spurted from the roots of her hair, and then each hair fell out. From beneath the slimy scalp, more maggots ate their way through the surface. Arms locked around me, the girl never loosened her grip. I struggled vainly to free myself, to avert my face, to close my eyes. A hardened lump in my stomach rose to my throat, but I could not disgorge it. I felt as if the skin of my body had turned inside out. By my ear resounded the laughter of the dwarf. The girl's face continued to melt until suddenly the jaw popped open, as if from a sudden twisting of the muscles, and clots of liquefied flesh and pus and maggots sprang in all directions. Oh, God. I sucked my breath in to let out a scream. I wanted someone, anyone, to drag me away from this unbearable hell. In the end, however, I did not scream. This can't be happening, I said to myself. This can't be real. I knew almost intuitively the dwarf is doing this. He's trying to trick me. He's trying to make me use my voice. One sound and my body will be forever his. That is exactly what he wants. Yeah, this is also gross. I guess I have to read this too. Now I knew what I had to do. I closed my eyes, this time without the least resistance, and I could hear the wind moving across the grassy field. The girl's fingers were digging into my back. Now I wrapped my arms around her and drew her to me with all my strength, planting a kiss upon the suppurating flesh where it seemed to me her mouth had once been. Against my face I could feel the slippery flesh and the maggoty lumps, my nostrils filled with the putrid smell. But this lasted only a moment. When I opened my eyes, I found myself kissing the beautiful girl I had come here with. So, that was disturbing. And essentially, he did not give in to the dwarf's ruse. He kisses the beautiful girl. All is right, but the dwarf is like, no, I will get you one day. It'll happen, and over I'll try until I get you. You won this time, but I will win ultimately, and you will dance in the forest forever. Paraphrasing there. But that's essentially what is supposed to happen according to this dwarf. And what ends up happening is because he spoke to his friend about the dwarf police, that's what I'm calling them. The dwarf police were on this guy's tail, and his life was pretty much ruined. He had to leave his elephant factory and the girl, because she told him, like, she snuck out and was like, hey, these people are coming for you. So he had to, I don't know, he's like eating bugs in the woods and like, you know, running cave to cave, town to town, whatever he could do. He's trying to escape, but they're hot on his trail. And it's pretty much insinuated that he's going to eventually lose if he doesn't kill himself or die somehow. And he's going to be in the dwarf's hands, and the dwarf is going to make him dance in the forest forever. I love that story.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was very well written, as you can see by the descriptions of the gross scene. Way better than fucking Chuck Palahniuk's Haunted. Sorry. It's like, that's how you do gross right, in my opinion. Oh, the word festering always gets me hot and bothered. Yeah, that was good. So the next story, because like I said, that was my favorite out of these last stories. Actually, I think that was my favorite in the whole collection.
That would probably, yeah.
I really enjoyed that story. Like, I liked a couple, like the Little Green Monster and the one with the what was that fucking, the one with the girl that was like getting attacked in a car at the end? What was the name of that one?
Oh, Sleep,
yes. I don't know how I forgot that. This next one is called The Last Lawn of the Afternoon. It's about a guy who reminisces on his time as a student when he mowed lawns and his girlfriend broke up with him. This was a weird story. I didn't really take much away from this. It was just kind of a guy who really liked mowing lawns.
What I liked about it was that it was very well written.
Yeah.
Like, it was written in a way that made, like, the lawn work kind of, like, interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, there wasn't really much to it because, like, you know, after a while, like, he quits to go back because he has to go back to school.
Yeah, and he has one more job. And
yeah, the boss is like, well, can you at least give me another week to give you some time to replace you? I'll give you a bonus, you know, and stuff like that. So he goes to cut this old lady's house. This old lady's
like a middle-aged drunk.
Yeah, her husband died recently, so she needed to do, and he did, like, just as good a job as the husband used to do. And so she invites him in, they had a couple beers, and then she let her down to this room, like
her daughter's room.
And this, I was expecting some weird shit to happen here.
Yeah, this whole time there was very weird vibes from this lady, and I was thinking like she was gonna try to do him, or there was gonna be some sexual nature. But then when she led him to that room, I was like, oh, the daughter is gonna be like dead or something. Or first I thought the husband's body was gonna be like some. I was thinking all these weird things, but none of it happened.
You know what? I almost thought at first that the like that was gonna be like the mom of the girlfriend that like broke up with, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that was also a possibility I was thinking, but it turned out she just like made him go through all the girl's stuff in her room, which had like a month's worth of dust, and just pretty much like break down what he thought of this girl he never met. Like, you know, what kind of person do you think she is? And I guess it's insinuated that she was in college. I don't think it's explicitly stated. And then he ends up just leaving, and he's very tired from work, and that's it. Like, it's not much of a story. Like, it was very well written, very good human elements to it. Like, this woman, you see, like, she obviously had some big tragedy, and she's left alone. But I didn't really care enough to take much away from it. I didn't think it was that great.
This would be a good example of like a character study kind of thing. You know what I mean? Well, like if you had if you had a writing assignment, or you wanted to just like
different character study, like how different people would handle things. Like how would you write a specific type of character? Like she was the alcoholic. Other than like I said, I didn't take much away from that. It was an okay story. It wasn't like boring or anything. It just like I thought something was gonna happen, and nothing ever ended up happening. Next up is Silence. This is about a guy and his buddy working at an airport, and it starts off the guy asks his buddy, he's like, hey, you ever punch a guy out or something like that? The guy gets very mad, and then he explains, because he's like a boxer, and then he explains like he goes into this whole thing. And this whole story was pretty much about, like the consequences of your actions, which is also, this was the only story that I think, other than the Noboru guy, that gave anybody names.
Yeah.
I think the guy's name was like Ozaka or something, and then his arch nemesis in high school was this kid named Aoki, who was just kind of like a smart, popular kid that he just didn't like for whatever reason. He doesn't even know why. He just didn't like the kid. Kid didn't like him. It was one of those things. He said he wanted to do, he made some deal with his parents when he was in school that if he got really good on this one test, he would get something he wanted. He didn't remember what it was. Got really good on the test, beat the Aoki kid in the test. The kid spread a rumor that he was cheating. He ends up punching out the kid. Like 3 years go by until they're in high school. And then the kid gets his revenge in the stupidest ways, just like the snarky asshole kid. Like one of the kids in the school, it's because it's like Japan, they have when you go like the entrance exams to get into school, like that's like a really stressful time, and suicides are really high. I don't know if they are currently in like the last 10 years or so, but I know used to be. It was like very stressful because even in school, you're just a loser. You'd have to go work at like a trade, or you'd be a bum. So it was like a very stressful situation to get in good schools. Now, our protagonist of the story, he's just like, he boxes and stuff, and he trains for boxing. He's pretty good. And he doesn't really care about studying. He reads a lot, but he doesn't care about school. So he like already got into like a okay like little school, so he's not really worried about the tests and stuff. But one kid killed himself, and in the suicide note, it just said he didn't want to go to school anymore. Well, the Aoki kid, it's not actually stated that he did this. It's just the protagonist thinks it was him, and pretty much probably was him. He spreads a rumor that the protagonist, because he hit him 3 years previously, and like they made a thing about if you're a boxer and you hit somebody, it's considered like assault with a deadly weapon in Japan, I guess. Well, he, because he assaulted him. And
granted, like he hit him before he even started boxing.
Like he was boxing, but he didn't actually put on gloves or anything.
He was still just like working, like getting into shape to even get into the ring.
So he didn't get in trouble for that. But I guess this Aoki kid said, because I forget the kid's name, but the one that committed suicide was getting bullied a lot and beat up and his lunch money stolen. And the Aoki kid, because he was very smart, so he didn't just go out and say that the protagonist was the one doing it. He just put the thought into like the headmaster's head and everybody's head that maybe he hit me. Why wouldn't he hit this kid?
Well, I think what he did was like how he spread the rumor about him cheating years before. I think he started to spread the rumor that the protagonist was hit, and then so it finally got to the head, to the headmaster.
Yeah, and then and like this just eats up the guy, like the protagonist. Like he was really sick about even hitting him. As soon as he hit him 3 years previously, he 3 years prior when he hit him, he just felt like sick. Like immediately he was like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. That's not the kind of guy he is. So when this happened and then everyone gave him the cold shoulder, nobody would talk to him for months at a time. And it kind of got to the point where he, like it didn't say, but he was thinking about committing suicide. He said he was close to the danger zone.
Yeah.
So like while that was going on, he just kind of was like, I gotta, like, he was stopped boxing for a while. He wasn't eating.
He was losing weight, wasn't sleeping.
Well, one day he's on the subway or the bullet train or whatever it is, and he runs into the Aoki guy, and they have like a stare down, and then it all just clicks into place. Like, this guy's just like a surface level loser. Like, he takes such pride in what he's doing to me, and like, who would do that? And like, there's this big spiel about all this. Like how he's feeling stuff, and then finally he almost feels like grief towards the guy and pities him, and then he just feels better, goes back to what he's doing, just takes the being ignored because there's only like so many months left in school, and then he graduates, and then it's back in the airport, and he's telling it's pretty much like a philosophy thing, but mainly it's about the consequences of your actions. There was one really cool quote in here I liked. We'll read that. But what did you ultimately think of the story? I liked it.
I liked this story. I like the
the character breakdowns were really good, like how the Aoki kid is and stuff like that.
Oh, we're always talking about themes and stuff, and that I enjoyed like the hey, we might put too much stock into like these tests and trying to get into a good school. And putting all these pressures on kids at a young age.
Yeah.
And then the how quick your peers will turn on you without even any proof. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then won't even give you like the shadow of the doubt. Like, you know what I mean? I enjoyed those kind of things and what I think he was trying to do, with the story there.
Yeah, I thought this was like a really good story from that aspect. So I'm just going to read this paragraph, but there's the one quote at the end here I really liked. This was after he punched Aoki when they were in 8th grade. I considered apologizing to Aoki, but I didn't. If it had been anybody else but Aoki, I probably would have apologized. I simply couldn't bring myself to apologize to the creep. And he calls him a lot of that, slime and creep. I was sorry I hit Aoki, but not sorry enough to say I was sorry. I love that line. Yeah. I was sorry, but not sorry enough to say I was sorry, which pretty much means you weren't sorry. Like, that sorry. Where are you?
It's like, I'm sorry that I hit him, but the person that I'm not sorry about hitting them.
He's sorry for his action. He like, the whole thing about consequences, he regrets the action, but not who he did it to. He fuck that guy. And that guy did seem like a weasel, especially like when he describes the scene between them on the subway, because they don't say a word, but just like the smirk the guy has on his face, and it's just like, hey, I ruined your life. Like, that's the kind of vibe you get. It's like, who would do that? But then just the way I said that, like, that's from the protagonist's point of view. It's just like, wow, like, that's all you have.
Yeah.
Like, that's all you are, is just to like make my life, but like, that's what you take pride in, is making my life hard. You must be pathetic.
Because what I like to think is that, like, my own headcanon is that Aoki is the one that was beating up on the student.
Very possible,
that killed himself. Like, that's what I like to think. And then so he took something that he did and blamed it on, on the protagonist.
The Elephant Vanishes. We come to the title story. This story was kind of weird too, but I can't say I enjoyed it at all. Granted, I just read it on the couch while you came over 10 minutes early. And I had to get done with it, so I kind of sped, speed reading. But like, it starts off with this city. They have like a zoo or something. They have an old elephant, and then they like the zoo goes out of business, disbands, whatever. So they get send all the animals to other places, but they have this old elephant they can't do anything with. It's like 20-something years old.
Because no other zoo wants it.
Who wants an old elephant? Yeah. Zoos have elephants. Like, that's one animal most zoos don't need is an elephant. So they're just like, well, I guess he's abandoned. What do we do with him? And then there's this big thing about how like the town's gonna buy him.
Because there's like a contractor that wants to do something to where the zoo used to be or something, right? And they're trying to figure out like, should the developer pay for it? Should the town folks pay for it?
Like, why would the townspeople adopt? Like, the beginning of it's very weird because it's written like almost like a contract, or it's like the pros and cons as some kind of guidelines of like, why would the town want the elephant? Why wouldn't they want the elephant? Pretty pointless, I thought. And then ultimately they get the stupid elephant. He's old, and the trainer that came with him, which is also an old guy, Mr. Noboru Watanabe. Again, the same name as the two other characters, the cat from the first story, and then the guy from the brother-sister story. I forget the name of that story. Also, what story was it? There was one where a guy eats spaghetti. Oh, the lawnmower story. The guy eats spaghetti and hates it. So I think Murakami's had some bad spaghetti.
He either loves spaghetti or hates spaghetti.
Well, I think he just hates bad spaghetti.
Well, yeah.
So I could tell every story he's written that has the bad spaghetti. I'm thinking he must have had bad spaghetti when he's writing this. He wanted to lash out. Like the old angry Japanese guys that are causing ruckus on subways and stuff. That's Murakami's like, fucking stupid spaghetti. Surprised he doesn't name and shame the restaurant. But anyway, so it's like just kind of get this small little buildup of like the trainer and the elephant and like how they get along and stuff. And then I don't know, is he a protagonist? This guy's telling the story, I guess. He is there and he likes elephants. And long story short, the elephant just randomly vanishes.
Along with the keeper?
Yeah, and there's no way it could have escaped or been let out because like the keys for the enclosure are locked, one in the police precinct, the other in like the fire hall or something, and they're in safe, so you couldn't do that. Couldn't have got out of its shackles unless you sawed its leg off. Had 10-foot iron bars surrounding the place. Like, there's no way this elephant.
Yeah, there was like the gates won't open, nothing was broken down.
Yeah, so the elephant just vanished apparently, and people were like, "What the fuck?" And then slowly they just start like, it's a big story obviously, but then slowly they start forgetting about it. Some people say it was a government scam because they got the taxpayers' dollars for it.
Well, also because in the beginning of the story, the protagonist he has like a scrapbook of all of like from the elephant, from when I'm getting it or from whenever the elephant first vanishes until like weeks and weeks out of like them trying to figure it out. So he has like this like almost like serial killer like book collection
scrapbook of the elephant. Yeah, it was very weird. And then he ends up meeting this girl
like years later, right?
Yeah, this is a story that the guy works at it's almost like
it's another one like those ad firms. It
was literally the exact same scenario as the one with the not the underpants gnomes, the TV people. The TV, because the guy worked for an electronics company and the ad thing, and then the woman that he meets works for like a female woman's magazine thing, which is the same as the married couple in that other story. But anyway, so they meet and they're getting along real good and they're having like a great dinner and they're probably going to do it and get married and just, life's going to be awesome. But then he ends up bringing up the stupid elephant and he immediately regrets it. He has to tell her and then she gets super invested in it. And then he describes how he was the last one to actually see the elephant and he watched from some spot that he found that nobody else knew about. He was watching the elephant and the trainer and they were like being best friends or whatever they do. And then all of a sudden the elephant kind of was like shrinking.
It appeared to be shrinking.
It seemed like he was shrinking. And then they turned off the lights so he didn't see what happened, but he assumes it shrunk down to be able to get out of there.
And it was also like the only quote-unquote plausible.
Yeah, only thing that made sense. And then I think he doesn't end up talking to that girl again because it was kind of a weird situation. But he ends the story with him talking about how like his perception has changed and he doesn't know if what he sees is real because, the way, like the balance. It was all about the balance. He didn't know if the balance in life was real or something. And it's just, again, these in this whole collection, these stories were very hit or miss for me. The ones that hit, I really liked. The ones that missed, I didn't really care. Like the obsessive stories we read at the beginning, I was like, I don't really care about these. But so overall, I give this 4 out of 5 whiskey shots.
Yeah,
because I like Murakami anyway. But I like the really weird stories in here. Like some of the weirdness was really good, and even the ones that weren't that good as far as a story perspective, like the way they were written was very well done.
Yeah.
So what do you give it?
I'd say 4 is a 4 out of 5 is a fair.
And my favorite stories in here were number 1, the dancing dwarf. I really like that. TV people probably because I thought that was really funny. I like the sleep story. And I like the little green monster.
Yeah, I like the brother and sister story.
Yeah, I like that story a lot too.
That was pretty entertaining.
Like we had the one with the really long name, the guys with the journal entries like about Hitler and the fall of Rome.
That was kind of dumb.
We had the one where the guy wrote he worked in the complaint department and he was like stalking the chick and he sends her like an audio recording.
Yeah,
I didn't care for that one either.
Well, Lederhosen.
I like Lederhosen. I thought that was all right.
The Burning Bonds was kind of interesting. When the guy, like, he was, like, friends with this chick, And then she brought over this other dude, like really like rich dude who just every once in a while.
Yeah, the Burning Barns. Yeah, that was a good one. The second bakery attack was good too.
Yeah.
What was the Kangaroo Communique? Well, that was like a weird one.
That was the that was one of the excessive ones. Like I'm pretty sure, like where that's the one where the dude sat on the porch recording the thing.
That's the one we record. What was the one where the guy going through this fantasy of meeting this lady that he was going to be like the perfect person for him? Let me just look.
On seeing the 100% perfect gore, 100 one beautiful April morning.
Yeah, I didn't care for that one either. The Wind Up Bird and Tuesday's Women was just the first chapter of the Wind Up Bird Chronicles, so I can't really judge that one. The second bakery attack was good. The Kangaroo Communique I didn't really care for. The Perfect Girl one I didn't care for. The Sleep one I really liked. The Fall of the Roman Empire and all that other shit I thought was weird. Not in a great way. I liked Lederhosen. I like Barn Burning. I liked The Little Green Monster. I like Family Affair. A Window. Which one was A Window?
Oh, crap. Which one was that?
That one's not ringing any bells. Let me go to it. 187. The windows.
To the wall.
To the sweat drip from my... No, don't say that, Spencer.
You hated a slow boat to China.
Did I hate that one?
That was the one with the three different stories of all the Chinese people that he met.
I just thought that was kind of pointless. I didn't hate it. I just didn't think there was anything there. Oh, The Window is the one about the hamburger steak. The guy that worked for the pen writing company thing.
Okay, yeah.
That one's okay. It was a little weird too, but...
Again, that would have been another good, like, character study kind of thing.
Yeah, that was all right. TV People I like. Slow Boat to China wasn't that good. The Dancing Dwarf I love. Yeah, so we covered the rest.
So I think we ended up liking more than not.
I disliked maybe 5 stories. And it wasn't even that I disliked them. It was just like they were kind of, they weren't really, those were the ones that weren't really stories.
I really want like that, the Elephant Factory, the one.
Is a book?
Yeah.
That would be great. Just that universe expanded.
Yeah, I just want to know what's going on there.
If you want like Murakami's world that he creates, that's pretty much it. Like in his books, it's just like, he makes things that are that weird seem perfectly normal. Because the way he was talking about their jobs, it was like, yeah, that's okay. That's the job. You just immediately go into, yeah, that's the job. That's what it entails. That's what it would be like. But then you have to stop and be like, no, that's fucking insane. Why would you make elephants out of random elephant parts?
And what, like, too, and then I really like the scene when he is bullshitting his way through the guard to let him in. Like, I was like, that's such a work thing. Like, that's something that somebody would do at work. Is they're fucking off somewhere, not doing something that they're supposed to do.
We've done that many times. So overall, Elephant Vanishes, worth the read. I recommend that to people, and
definitely over the first person singular.
Yeah, the first person singular just wasn't Murakami to me. I don't know. I didn't get there. That had like one weird story in it. I think. I don't even remember which one that was.
The talking monkey.
Talking monkey story. Yeah, the talking monkey story. It's gonna be a while before we do another Murakami minute. I'm kind of leaning towards doing a novel, maybe.
Well, I was wondering, do you like for this next segment? Do we still continue to go with Murakami, or should we
Ryu Murakami,
or should we like pivot for a little bit to make like a different author?
Well, then it wouldn't be a Murakami minute.
No, but I mean, it obviously wouldn't be a Murakami minute, but it would be like whatever else minute or whatever. You know,
we'd probably get more downloads if we did like a author more people. That just casual readers.
I mean, we're writers. We could probably come up with a catchy title, but you know what I mean. Like, so we're just not always doing like Murakami. Like, you know what I mean. Not that I don't.
That's gonna spiral out into King's Court, Polynix Pad. That's just fucking. I was trying to think of one for Gaiman, but it just came off wrong in my head. But yeah, something for Gaiman, and just we could just keep going.
80 podcasts later, it's just like a head of the Hydra just cut one off, 2 more show up.
Yeah, I the original reasoning, one, I just want why I created this was one, I wanted you to read Murakami.
Yeah,
and that was a good excuse for me to knock out some of his short story collections I haven't read. That's the main reason behind it. But also, I just think more people should read Murakami because he's one of those authors you either get or like not to sound like a pompous, pretentious douche. You either get or you don't. You either like his style or you just don't like. There seems to be nobody that I haven't talked to too many people who are like, Murakami's he's okay. I could read it or I could not read it. Usually it's like people really love his work
Or don't.
or they just don't want to read it at all, which is like a lot of people feel that way about Hemingway. It's just the writing style. It either gets you or it doesn't.
Yeah, it's just what you like.
You seem to enjoy like the way he handles the mundane details in like these worlds that he creates, and then you get to the fantastical elements on top of that. It just makes the what was mundane seem so much more realistic that it makes the fantastical stuff seem realistic. So when you got a guy dreaming about dancing dwarfs and working in an elephant factory,
You don't question it.
yeah, because like he explains the details of how the elephant factory works. They're like, okay, that's just the world. Like you're fine with it. That's I like Murakami, and that, unless you have any parting words.
I was gonna say, I think he is one of those like there's those writers that you can tell he was meant to be a writer because he can write, even like those ones that we didn't like. He can make it so it's not like boring or under a different person. Like those could have been a real chore to read, but even those stories that we didn't enjoy,
not a single skip in the bunch.
No.
Even the first person singular, like you still wanted to read them because you never know he's gonna throw something fucked up.
Yeah, you just never know.
Yeah, like that whole scene with the girl's fucking rotted face. Like I didn't see that coming at all.
Nope.
I was like, holy shit. And I've read most of his work, and I don't remember a scene like that in any of it. So, and shout out to Jay Rubin for translating that so well. This has been a longer episode, but we are done for now. We will be back with the Murakami Minute maybe summertime.
Sometime.
We got a lot of stuff to do before then, so maybe summertime.
Murakami will return.
Yes. Until then, this has been a Murakami Minute.